Welcome back to Kryptolytix, giving you a fresh take on crypto analytics. And this is your crypto recap, where I cover some of the things going on in the crypto space. So let's jump in. Okay, so here we are starting off again on the Bitcoin cycle chart. Now we've just got our weekly candle close and another pivot surge sell signal. So it's not looking too good, but I think overall I want to paint more of a bullish picture at the moment because for the most part, in terms of the sort of zoomed out high time frame 1 week view, we're still well and truly bullish, right? There's no doubt about that. But will we get some short-term bearish price action? That's definitely a possibility, right? So we might get a little push up here over the next day, and then maybe we might come back down to some lower levels, which I'll go into a little bit more detail. But just as far as the weekly is concerned, this is still bullish. Overall, in terms of structure, we're still macro bullish. Anything really above 56k, which yes, that is pretty far down, admittedly. That would be a like 16% drop roughly, or 14% if you measure the from where we are down. I like to measure from the top up, that way I can see what kind of percentage moves need to be put in to get us back to where we were. But nevertheless, we're still above the bull market support band. That's bullish, that's still fine. We're still above the top of the SMMA VWAP bands, and we're still above this logarithmic regression band here. So these lines here are logarithmic regression lines based on Fibonacci, and that's still all good. So essentially we have been ranging, as I mentioned time and time again in the last few videos essentially. So that's what makes it a little bit less exciting in the market, but it's still a range above 56.9 and below, I would say 74 would be technically still, that's still technically a range, right? So in terms of this, even just small moves down below here would be fine as well. So down, as I said, 56, but my absolute line in the sand where the bull market is over, which is a lot of the calls that we're getting on X at the moment, and sentiment seems to be overall pretty bearish, which is quite surprising. And one thing about market tops that we have to always think about is that, when it's a market top, no one's talking about market tops. That's pretty much how it works in crypto. So if everyone's calling for a market top and then the bull market's over, then it's pretty safe to say the bull market's not over. That's the long and short of it, essentially. But I guess what I'm getting at here is my absolute line in the sand is 52k, and anything below there with significant candle closes, like weekly candle closes below there, that's pretty much it. But the probability of that happening is quite low at this stage. So anyway, on a macro level, we're still bullish structure, still higher highs, higher lows, and essentially all we're really going to discuss, I suppose, is short-term price action. But getting a pivot surge here is not ideal. We did get one here as well, but getting a sell signal, if you will, here is not really good. But we still are pinned to the bottom of the stochastic RSI, and we're back into the green zone essentially. So we've actually gone back down below the oversold region. So there we go. We're just hanging out down here and back into sort of the buy territory, I suppose, if you will. Now, having a look at the daily, we did actually get a TDSS 9 buy signal. So that's a buy signal or bottom signal on the daily. So that's actually kind of bullish, at least in the short term. I mean, I believe we might even get a little relief rally here, essentially, but we might just put in again another lower high and then come back down a little lower. So at least with regards to this is still all good, and we're very, very close to flipping bearish, at least on this strategy anyway, this parabolic SAR strategy. But if this did flip bearish, I would probably have my downside targets at between around 56k, because this is the last line, the 65 and 66k region, this zone here. This is a pretty significant support, and if we break that, then there's a pretty good chance we'll come back down to some of these lower levels. Probably here first would be the first stop, and then potentially coming down to like your 54k level, which is that's again another support. We've got over here, we've got a support. But let's have a look at the TDSS 9, right, and see what happened this year so far every time this has printed. So here we go. We've got January right here. We had a TDSS 9 buy signal right there. Have a look what happened afterwards. Yeah, we did this. We went up 90%, so that's nothing to sneeze at. And then again, we had one right here. What happened after that? Yep, we went up 22%. So will this be the same? I guess past performance isn't always indicative of future, because when we were ranging last year, again, that massive 200-day range, we did get a TDSS 9 buy signal at 28K, which still, again, at the end of the day would have been an amazing buy considering where it, and then we had another buy a bit further down, right? So we got another leg down and another buy signal, and that was our bottom. So that was last year during a sideways sort of accumulation range. But again, look at this beautiful buy signal there, although it did come back down again. Beautiful buy signal there. I mean, look at this one. This would have been like, yeah, about 60%. So these signals are something to consider with a decent amount of reliability, right? In the past, they have given us some pretty good signs of at least local market bottoms. And this could be what we're getting here. So, I mean, I just showed a pivot surge sell signal on the weekly, but this is short-term price action, right? So this is short-term price action. It's more important for us, at least right now. At least the daily's not really that short-term, but it's short-term enough. So there you go. In terms of my longs, I actually added to it just now, and I'm still at least short-term bullish, but if we do come back down here below and, you know, close some daily candles below here, 65, because that we really do need to defend that level, then I'll flip. At least this strategy I'll flip anyway, but that's just what it is, because again, that could be, I could be able to capture an 18% move if we do come back down to these levels and sort of start to refill this inefficiency here, these wicks. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, at least for Bitcoin. Maybe we'll get a complacency bounce, but we really do need to take out the 70K level. Because if we can't take out that 70K level, like right here, then it doesn't really matter. It's just a relief rally and a potential lower high. And we could get something like this, right? And then we come back down to sort of like this area, and then, you know, another little push up to try and retest this, and then come back down here, which would be like a third, like that would be the complete drop, I guess, for this one. Well, I didn't measure from here, but you get what I mean. You get what I'm saying, right? And even this could be a little bit too high, right? This would be a little bit too high, but we do need to recapture that level. So if things did get bullish, at least in the short term, then we could very well run up to that level. But we could go at least an ABC, right? An ABC corrective pattern from here. As a lower high would be confirmation that the trend is actually down in the short term, right? But at least for now, it's still above these key levels. So it's still above here, it's still above here. So still bullish, right? Still bullish. One other thing that I did see though, and that's this short-term price action here on the 1 hour. So this here is not indicative of bullish price action, because what we did get is we got an ABC, what looked like an ABC corrective pattern. And what does that mean? That a corrective pattern would be confirmation that we're in a downtrend, right? Although admittedly, this was a manipulatable event, right? We had the CPI 3.3. I mean, it was under expectations, right? CPI was a bullish print, but the Fed didn't cut interest rates, because my thesis was higher for longer, probably till, you know, maybe Q4 or Q3. They might start to, the end of Q3, maybe they might start to consider cutting interest rates. And I guess that was considered as like bearish, but not really. It's not really bearish, to be honest, but this is what the market decided, or just the market decided to play this and trap traders up here, essentially. But this looks like an ABC corrective pattern, right? So that would indicate that this is further down, because this price action here, this looks impulsive. So if this is an ABC corrective pattern and this looks like an impulsive move to the downside, that means that's trend continuation, and that means that the trend could potentially be down. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as we can defend the 66K to 65K region, it's still fine, right? It's still fine. And this could just be manipulation and, you know, market maker games, essentially, to fake people out and trap people in trades. Now, I did start building a long position. I cut my short, and that was based on the pivot surge on the daily chart. We got 3 signals. So that was the first one just there. So I flipped my short, which was in a small amount of profit, not much. Again, this is a completely separate strategy. So I trade various strategies, and sometimes I'm in a short and sometimes I'm in like 2 shorts and a long, or, you know, because I trade over multiple different exchanges and different, you know, decentralized and centralized as well. Essentially, this is one of them. And again, as you can see, we're coming into that support, and we've got another support down below. And, you know, as I said in the last video, we got the bear moon. So that's something to consider. What are the possible causes for this drawdown? But I think the other reason is just because we couldn't break this level, right? We just kept hitting it and tapping off it. So we really need a decent drawdown, a decent pullback, because the next time we come to this 71K level, 72K level, I believe we will probably break it and then move further up. Now, again, we'll talk about the moon cycles. I think the next one, the next print, if you want to talk about moon cycles, is on the 21st of June. So if we just consolidate here and nothing really much happens, that could be the bear moon print done, and then we shoot off from there. But if we, if you just use the moon phases to trade, at least on the 12-hour, this is what it would look like as a strategy. So 50% win rate on the 12-hour, not very good. I mean, if you go down to 4-hour, I think it's better. And then maybe 2 hours, even better again, 55% win rate. And then 1 hour gets a little bit dreadful. It still looks okay. This is going, I think, all the way back to, 2020 or to late 2019. So yeah, that's pretty far back. But yeah, if you just took all these signals, these bear prints and bear moons and bull moons, as soon as they printed, well, it's not exactly the best strategy, right? It's not exactly the best strategy. So that's why you sort of want to take it in confluence with everything else. So I just thought I would mention that. People talk about the moon phase as being gospel, but they're just something you can add to your collection. If you see something bullish in terms of price structure or price action and some other indicators, and there's a bull moon, then maybe that's, a good sign to be bullish, right? Now, this is crazy. We've had 3 pivot surge buy signals throughout this whole price action here. Now, again, this strategy is like a position building strategy. It's not one where you nail the bottom every time, right? So like these buy signals, for example, were pretty bad. But then here, this one, these ones here eventually brought your cost basis down to a point where if you were following it, which again, I've got the script for this in the description below anyway, but in some of these ranges, it can be amazing. And this has been ranging price action, so that's why I like to use it on Bitcoin. When things get really out of hand and it can get trapped on the wrong side of the market and just keep trying to short, especially when things are going parabolic up, and keep trying to short until it stops out, because there is a stop loss, but it's really far away from price. So stop loss at the moment for these longs is all the way down here. But you can see here that like the average was brought down to a point where eventually when I flipped to short, I actually did make a profit on this. So this short started here, and then as it got further up, I sort of adjusted the position size. So I put more in the higher we went, which is not what you meant to do, but this is an account that I don't mind wrecking essentially. But nevertheless, by the time I ended up flipping this short to long, this was finally in a profit. Only a small profit, but that's because we had these 2 sell signals right here. This actually looked pretty good straight away, but then we just sold off and rejected. This price action doesn't look great, and we did just come into a support, so that's why I've added to my position for two separate strategies. So this one I added here, and then on Saturday, and then the PSAR I added because of the TDSS 9 buy signal. So there you go. I actually don't have any shorts open for Bitcoin right now, but the PSAR, if that flips, that will become a short immediately. And this one will remain a long, and I'll just keep buying the dip. I think on this one, I think the next level I'd probably buy without getting a signal would probably be 63K, because that's the bull market support band, which is, in a bull market, that's the support band. So that's a support. Good buying opportunity. And then the next level would be here at around 60K, I would say, if I weren't to just follow the pivot surge. But again, I think there's a good chance we might get another relief rally, but if we stop short of this level here, then there's a good chance we'll just get rejected and keep going down. Now, I think I've almost covered everything, but there was one more thing I wanted to cover in terms of my charting, and that is we are now below the volume support for the volume profile. So the volume profile, it measures the volume within this range here. So this price range you're looking at right now, it's measuring the volume that's taken place throughout this entire range on a price level. So it's a volume indicator that measures on an y-axis, essentially, if that makes any sense. So right here, we saw a massive amount of volume taking place at this particular price. This was our volume support, and now we're below it, which means it's now our volume resistance. So you can see on this ghost color here, I guess you could say these ghost bars, that's the actual volume for this price range. So you can see we had a big spike here at 63K. So you could say that could possibly be a support. But the whole point of this is you now have a lot of people who are trapped in positions above this level. So maybe they don't want to be in a loss, so maybe they cut their positions. So this creates a sort of selling pressure, essentially. And so right now we're below that. We're also below the 50-day and the 21-day EMAs, which is not ideal. because these are again now resistance because we're below them. And if you want to look at just EMAs alone, 64K, which I mentioned before was another potential support as well, but 64K is our 50-day, and then 20, that's the bull market support band right there. That's a 20-week EMA. And then the 200, which again, bull market well and truly above that, is currently sitting at 57K. So for the time being, at least for me, I'm adding to my long position. Again, the Ichimoku trend meter is bullish. The CVI trend meter is green, bullish. I mean, if these things flip red, then I won't, then I'll have to shift my sentiment, that's for sure. But for now, it's looking okay. And, you know, if we could get another little dip into here, well, unfortunately, that would probably trigger my PSAR. But if we get another little dip into here, again, we're just dipping into a support level, which is okay. And maybe when the bull moon prints, then we can try and sort of attempt these levels again. But for now, we're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, essentially, with regards to this. So that's kind of how I'm treating all of this at the moment. Fear and Greed Index is still pretty high. We're still at 71. And that's because Bitcoin hasn't really done anything. I think this is mainly, it's this Crypto Fear and Greed Index. And this is on CoinGlass, but I think this is the just Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, because altcoins have dropped so much that I don't see where all the bullish sentiment will be coming from. So I think this thing is broken, potentially, or maybe not. Because if it's this high, then maybe that drop to 54K or some of these lower levels that I was talking about before, your 57, 56 support right here, or even lower potentially, that would definitely push us down in the Fear and Greed Index to 50 or below potentially. And that would be our complete reset. I think even down here, 64K would be a reset. I think we'd probably start to get down to lower into fear as we start to break some of this sort of structure here. But again, like, look at this. We're still above here. That's bullish. We're still above here. That's bullish. So I get why it's 71. That's still pretty high considering how much bearish sentiment I'm seeing on YouTube and X and in a bunch of other places as well. Still seems kind of bearish. So I don't really know, like, I don't know what to say about this. It just feels like the market doesn't feel greedy right now. It feels like there's a lot of fear in the market. But I guess I'm still bullish, so maybe this is kind of reflective of me right now, I suppose. But I'll probably still be bullish even if we get down here. I'll probably be even more bullish if we get down here because we're in a bull market right now still. Again, as long as we're above 50K, it's still a bull market. So anything, you know, if we do get price drops to these levels, those are amazing buying opportunities, especially in altcoins, because they'll drop even more. You know, sure, Bitcoin would drop, as in there's like about a 20% drop. So you'd see altcoins drop maybe like 40%, 50%, something like that, which is a lot, especially at current levels, because some altcoins are sitting at their sort of range lows right now. So that would look really bad for altcoins, I would say, if we get a drop down there. But I'm not seeing anything like that happening, at least in the short term. We have had a few red days though on the ETFs. So the 13th, which was the Thursday, we had some outflows, and on the 14th, which was the Friday, we had some outflows as well. So we'll have to see if the ETFs step back up and get some more inflows, which would definitely push us up for that sort of potential relief rally that I was talking about. So let's check out a few charts by tech dev. So this is interesting. So there's only one other time in Bitcoin's existence we had a tighter 5-day compression. So again, this is like the Bollinger Band compression. So when the closer these bands get together, the more wild the next price could be, essentially. So we've got back here in 2012 was the last time it was this compressed, which is interesting. I'm surprised last year it wasn't so compressed on the Bollinger Bands as well. I think because of just how wild the price action was leading up to this has caused a much larger compression, because last year this price action wasn't as crazy, whereas we had these massive moves recently. So 2012, if we compare 2012, we had that afterwards. I mean, this is probably going to happen, something akin to this for us, but you know, not in the short term. I wouldn't think. In the short term, we've got a lot of other barriers and things to overcome. But nevertheless, that's what TechDev was looking at when price was $5. That's cheaper than what I first bought it for. So Bollinger Bands are really squeezing. So that's potentially a sign that the next move could be a violent one. That's for sure. And this was another top signal chart, and it looks like that hasn't occurred yet. I think this is based on a breakdown of a momentum oscillator of some sort. So that's what he's considering as the top, because there was a breakdown there of an oscillator here, because it shows relative weakness. And I don't think this is an RSI. I think this is something proprietary that he would have coded, because, you know, when you look here, there's all of these like 2-month vortex, 2-month expansion, top gauge, 1-week expansion, the pi cycle top, all that sort of stuff. So these are the things that he's looking at. You know, 2-month parabolic SAR, that 2-month. Yeah, so there's a lot. And we definitely haven't broken any of this stuff yet. So again, all these top callers, just keep the stuff in mind, is that none of this has been broken yet. So yeah, things are still looking okay. Now let's cover some new stuff. So we had 60 million customers at Brazil's largest bank can now start buying Bitcoin and crypto. So there you go. There's some more potential bullish inflows for Brazilians. And Brazil actually has quite a lot of Google searches for Bitcoin. If we have a look here at this Simply Bitcoin post, we got a video from 2016. Let's go to now. Look at this. Brazil is leading the charge. So Brazil at the moment has the highest monthly search volume for Bitcoin on Google. I believe this is where this data is coming from. So right now, even higher than the US. And when did this actually start? So we can get a gauge for when so this is ever since November 2022. Again, so this is actually quite a while ago. So this recent change here is probably because a lot of people wanted it. I mean, if there's that many searches going on in Brazil for Bitcoin, then that's probably a fair reason as to why the banks have allowed it. But yes, you've got Turkey coming in next after that, then Germany. This is last year. Let's have a look at now again. So Germany is actually higher. We have a look at, say, the start of this year. Germany's very high, and Turkey has remained constantly high as well. So if you're wondering, does this even mean anything? Well, yes, it does, because you've got potential exposure to 60 million customers in Brazil that have been searching for Bitcoin, many millions of searches, so 2.5 million searches. Does this mean anything? The answer, I believe, is yes. You've got May, 2.5 million searches for Bitcoin, and then 60 million customers. I think that's pretty bullish. I think that's definitely something worth considering as potential another inflow vector for us, Bitcoin. Now we had the Ethereum ETFs. They are expected to launch by July 2nd, according to this Bloomberg senior ETF analyst, this guy here. So that could be coming for us very, very soon, which would be very bullish for Ethereum. Now, if we have a look at Ethereum's price action, I'm still holding my long here. It actually came right to my entry over the last few days, admittedly, and I didn't enter this short. But yeah, the price action, at least off the lows for Ethereum, has been pretty decent. We got about 8.37% off the lows, essentially, for this. Now, where will I probably cut my position? I would say a few daily candles below my entry. This is a really good spot, though. I quite like this. I don't think many people were able to get this kind of entry, so that's why I'm apprehensive to cut it, as long as the market looks okay. But if Bitcoin starts to close sort of more bearish, then I'll probably have to reconsider, right? I'll probably have to reconsider. Like anything, you've got to reconsider with the data that you have available to you. But overall, we've got quite a few resistance zones above as potential sort of points where we'll get rejected from. But if the market resumes bullish and, Ethereum can take out that 4K level, then I would say that would be our next stop there. And if gives up this bullish region, let's go over to here to the Fibonacci's, trusty Fibonacci's for this expansive move that's measured from the bottom there to the top. We got the 618 and the 786. So this is our old golden pocket here, all the way down at 28K and 27-ish or 26K respectively. So those are the zones we're looking at the moment. You can see here 2611 and 2928 are the exact Fibonacci levels. And you can see this support is also price support and this support is price. So we've got resistance here, and then this is flipped into a support. So that's why it's a box. And also look at this, look at how strong the support has been at that $2,800 level. It's very strong support right there. But Ethereum overall looks kind of messy, I would say. It just, again, it looks similar to Bitcoin in that it's stuck in a range. Look, there's your bottom of your range, there's the top of your range. If we do break down below here, well, then that's where Bitcoin would probably be going down even lower as well. So that's just something to consider. But with the ETF on the horizon, if we did somehow push down here, that would be an amazing spot to load up on spot Ethereum, I would say. So that's that. Now, while we're talking about Ethereum, I figured I would spend the rest of this video, and I'm going to do the Solana ecosystem recap in the next video because there's just too much to cover, because I wanted to go into like a deep dive on price action for Bitcoin. Now, I'm going to cover the ZKSync Airdrop for the rest of this video because I think that's probably enough to fill out an entire video. So we've got here from ZKSync regarding their messed up airdrop, TLDR. Thanks for the feedback and for using the chain for 2 years. We will not make any changes to the airdrop. Suck it. That's pretty much how it feels, right? That's what the feedback was. They're like, thanks for the feedback, but we don't really care. So, I mean, even I said, like, they're in my bad books. I was actually using a chain for months last year and on and off this year, and I didn't actually get anything. So I thought I did, but I didn't actually get anything. And they considered me as Sybil potentially. And I think a lot of other people out there would have potentially been false flagged as a Sybil as well. So this is why, you know, this whole fragmented ecosystem and liquidity, you know, ETH L2, L3, L4, all of this stuff, just to me, it makes no sense. That's why I love Solana. But anyway, I guess that's probably important to say as well, because that shows how I feel about the situation. And, you know, admittedly, airdrops are one of these things where if anyone doesn't get an airdrop, then they get angry and, you know, the sentiment is really bad. But it's not just me, right? It's not just me. And there's some big players in the space that got sort of rugged on this as well. Rand said, we don't need another layer 2. And, you know, ZKSync is just another layer 2 for Ethereum, really. And like, this is my opinion. So too bad, you're going to get it again and again. Further splintering ETH's already incredibly fragmented liquidity. Monolithic chains make more and more sense the longer you watch this play out. Another reason why Solana makes more sense. I need to say this stuff because then you can tell I am quite biased, I would say, at this stage. And don't get me wrong, like, I appreciate what ETH has done for crypto. There's no doubt about it. But all of this layer 2 stuff just doesn't make any sense to me, because if you can't scale your chain, then essentially it's going to become irrelevant. That's what I feel. Because again, you've got the liquidity, all of these different dApps that are just, it's all fragmented. And, you know, some ETH maxis are like, oh, it's going to be solved. Okay, how? You're going to have to build some sort of sophisticated bridge mechanism that can somehow bridge all the liquidity together into some pool. This is years and years and years off. This would take a long time to put together. Wormhole can't even put together a decent bridge that, you know, works all the time. Doesn't black hole assets, for example. And Wormhole is one of the best bridges we've got. And even dBridge, I mean, it'd be super expensive bridging all this liquidity. It's just not a thing on the horizon, right? We've seen how long it takes ETH to make any meaningful changes to the core level, the execution layer, which is now ETH, because they're just handballing all of the actual activity to the layer 2s, layer 3s, layer 4s, layer 100s, essentially is what we're getting. And I think the main reason for that is they're like this massive moving train. I mean, think about it. There's so much money in ETH now that any small change that breaks the chain would be catastrophic. So, you know, even Solana, even Anatoly Yakovenko from Solana said in a call, he's like, if there was that much money at stake on Solana's chain, he would also be worried about making changes, right? So I guess, you know, that kind of makes sense. But anyway, so let's get into the story of the ZKSync airdrop. This is by Stacey Moore. This is actually a really good thread. I did read this in its entirety and I was like, I could do an entire video just in this thread alone. I'll just tack this onto the end of my crypto update, Bitcoin and ETH update, essentially, because, you know, the ETH L2s are, with regards to all of the tokens, it's probably not where it's at. If you're bullish on Ethereum and even the L2s, I would probably not even bother speculating on the actual tokens, because they're just governance tokens and they don't mean anything, because the L2s use ETH for gas. Unless they're sort of like Mantle, which uses Mantle for gas, that sort of mechanism, then sure, that's fine. You can sort of speculate on that because people will need to buy the token in order to use it for gas. But if it's something like ZK, Arbitrum, Optimism, they're just governance tokens, right? If you want to participate in governance, then you'll need it. If you don't care about governance, then you don't need it, and you're just literally buying it to speculate on. And yes, I do hold some Arbitrum, but not that much. It's a very small part of my portfolio. So let's get into the ZKSync airdrop drama, shall we? So is this the end game for the whole industry? So the timeline and real facts for the ZK airdrop drama. So let's get into it. I mean, I've been on this screen now for what feels like 10 minutes. So let's actually get into this, right? So on June 11, 7 a.m., the ZKSync Nation announced the ZK airdrop checker link along with eligibility criteria. 17.5% of the ZK supply goes to 695,232 wallets. That's quite a lot. People check their wallets but find no allocation, even if they've been very active on ZKSync users over the past year. So that was me, right? So I actually been actively using this chain and I didn't get an allocation. So that's probably another reason why I'm a bit salty, but there's other reasons for which I've already covered. So, you know, why a lot of this doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, let's get into it. That's their post. They got introducing ZK token. I think my last video had this on the screen, this post here, and I also vented a little bit then too. So on June 11, 4 p.m, Sybil Horror releases a list of all users identified as Sybils by Layer 0 Labs. These users received an allocation of 135 M ZK tokens. So Layer 0 Labs detected all of these as Sybils, but the ZK team actually gave these users an allocation. I don't know if that's necessarily related, to be honest. Like, one's one, one's another, but again, you know, these could be mercenary liquidity or just Sybil farmers as well. And if, if they're doing it for layer 0, then there's a pretty good chance they were doing it for ZK as well, right? So that's 4.5 million pre-market value, representing 3.5% of the total airdrop. So the list contains 45,000 addresses, which is 6.5% of all addresses. So there you go. This is Civil Horror and his massive, I would say, spreadsheet. And he's saying, I hope ZKSync fixes their eligibility list and disqualifies Sybils from it. But as you saw before, I don't think they're going to change anything. Maybe if there's enough pushback and enough fight about it, then maybe they'll do something about it. But I think there's a good chance that they just won't, because they've just decided that this is what it is and, suck it, as Neliquin said before. So users began checking these wallets. ZKSync Nation claimed the max allocation was capped to 100K. However, users discovered that a Sybil marked account under the Zincs, is that how you say that? Anyway, name on DBank received 104.806. Wow, that's a lot. And it's only a little bit over, admittedly, but again, that's the allocation, so it's over the 100K cap. On June 12th, this is only a day later, the NFT marketplace Element Market, which accounted for almost 70% of the total trading volume on ZKSync Era, that's the new one, according to NFT scan data, reported ineligibility. Following this, several other ZKSync protocols reported similar situations. So this is Element NFT's post here. As the largest NFT marketplace on ZKSync, we didn't receive any airdrops. Is this a joke? Now, giving airdrops to protocols, that's fair. I would say that's fair. And people are like, oh, look at these protocols giving these massive whale allocations. Well, to be honest, I would say that most other chains would honor this, because obviously Element NFT, which I covered in my ZKSync airdrop video, as something to use, which again, that video didn't work. So sorry to anyone who did that stuff and didn't get an allocation, but if you did, then good on you. Well done. I didn't, so they didn't get anything, which is pretty bad, I think, if you ask me. You've got to support your builders. This team has decided to build specifically on ZKSync, and so they are supporting and facilitating a lot of volume through the network. So this is pretty bad. I think this is kind of a bad look. NFT development platform ZKApes reported on the same day that it was also left out on the airdrop, despite generating 15 million in gas fees for ZKSync. So we generated 15 million in gas for ZKSync, but received no airdrop. What a joke. And on the following day, we had the situation repeats. Dmail official said, as one of the dApps with the highest number of UAWs and transactions, so about 19, almost 20 million transactions on ZKSync, it's unbelievable that Dmail network didn't receive any airdrop. So there's another one. And we had a airdrop focused blogger here. So 0x nonsense, pretty good actually, reveals research suggesting a ZKSync developer claimed 660,000 tokens using 47 wallets. That's Sybil, right? So that's completely Sybil. The post received 160,000 views. So a lot of people saw this one. Funnily enough, the sheet the blogger refers to is called Degen. It's a friends token of ZKSync founder. I don't know, that doesn't make much sense, but anyway. So this is the post by this 0x nonsense. Do you think the ZK airdrop was unfair? I discovered that one ZKSync developer has 47 wallets and received 660,000 tokens. All wallets connected through dispersed contract. 0.05 ETH was dispersed on 550 wallets. Is that all? 0.05 ETH. Is that all? That's nothing. I put a lot more through than that. I think my volume was at like $80,000-$90,000. So why do I believe these wallets belong to one ZKSync developer? The wallet's owner received allocation for contributions to notable GitHub repositories multiple times. He also received allocation for contributions to the ZKSync community hub on GitHub. Additionally, they received allocations for holding a POAP from in-person ZKSync events. The wallet owner knew exactly what needed to be done and did not care about the connections between wallets. They dispersed ETH on the mainnet before starting farming and waited 150 days to activate the wallets 30 days before the snapshot. Yeah, there you go. That sounds like insider information for sure. I do not want to dox devs and don't care about his allocations. I have allocation for ZKSync, so I'm okay. Well, good for you, bro. Almost all small normies get $0 for 2 years of activity spent from $10 to $300 transaction fees for nothing. Is this fair for them? I don't think so. It would be nice to have a reaction from the team. Do they think this is a fair distribution, community first or dev first? Yeah, so there's the Degen, it's friends token of ZKSync founder, potentially. So that would make sense. Yeah, disgusting work on the part of the ZKSync. they don't seem to think so. The ZK Nation react to this post, calling it a massive coordinated Sybil misinformation campaign against ZKSync on X, run by thousands of bots. So there you go. That's a pretty strong reaction. And they're having to sort of defend themselves a little bit here. Metis Charter drops a Dune Analytics dashboard showing that 12,000 wallets with no single transaction on ZK era got 105 million tokens. That's 2.8% of the total. That's crazy. Users started finding out that just holding a Pudgy Penguin or Milady Maker NFT gave a user 8,700 tokens. So there you go. Ivan on Tech got one, I guess, because of his Pudgy Penguin. June 13, we've got Danny Krypton here tweets about a newly created address which already received a ZK allocation. So 917, it's not a huge allocation, admittedly, but 7 hours ago, a wallet was registered equals eligible. Meets all the criteria for the airdrop. If you don't believe it, check it yourself. So there's the address there. Are you okay with this? Do you think we're idiots? So yeah, interacted with 10 smart contracts, positive liquidity and DeFi protocols. So I didn't donate to a Gitcoin round. There you go. So that's one thing I didn't do. Anyway, so that was the criteria for the airdrop there. And somehow this brand new wallet managed to get an allocation. So it makes sense of that. We got Justin Sun, so Huobi, or what's it called now? Whatever the exchange is, but he's also Tron. Justin Sun said, I heard that the ZK project is not a humane one. Should we boycott its launch? That's probably a translation from the Dongwon right here. But that's not a good look for sure. So apparently ZK Nation will address the criticism with an announcement and an FAQ. The major issues were identified, apparently. So users began reading the FAQ and discovered additional inconsistencies. The FAQ states that if a user only used ZKSync Lite and not ZKSync Error, unfortunately, they were not eligible to receive any allocation. So again, in my video, we used both, right? You would have ticked most of these boxes if you followed my video, right? I mean, not the NFT, which makes sense, but nearly everything else we did, right? So we did that if you were around last year when I made that video. But in reality, a user has 0 transactions on ZK Era but receives 27k tokens for donating to Gitcoin and transacting on ZK Lite. So these inconsistencies led to various forms of user-based research, some aimed at engagement farming and some quite realistic and some pure conspiracy theories. In this thread, they've included only facts that can be confirmed and verified for now. So less than 10% of the ZK airdrop allocation can be linked to Sybils or inactive wallets on Error. While this isn't ideal, it's not catastrophic. Well, how was I, it's again, like how was I a Sybil? Essentially, I was using the chain. The real issue is the loss of trust in ZKSync. What they say does not correlate with what on-chain data shows. So that's the drama. And those are the consistencies. And yeah, so if you followed my video and you didn't get an airdrop, then I didn't either. So we can be salty and sour together. But I think that's probably enough for this video. So overall, I'm still bullish. Remember above those key levels. But at the time of recording, this is the Asian trading session. So yeah, it doesn't really matter that much what happens right now. But we'll have to see what happens by the time you're watching this video, because often at the start of a week, we get a false move. So this little impulse we're getting right now could be a false move at the beginning of the week, and we could draw down later towards the end of the week. But as long as we hold those levels that I mentioned, those support levels, then we should be all good. Unless we break 70k, we're still stuck in the range and we just keep going and rolling sideways. So if you want to watch my Solana ecosystem video, it's the next one. So keep your eyes open for that if you're interested. And if you're not, then that's all good. So if you like the video, then please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and go follow me on X if you want all of this in real time before I can do a video on it. Comment down below, let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you get a ZK airdrop? Let me know in the comments below, especially if you followed my video. I would really like to know if you did or if you didn't. And remember, I'm a Blowfin partner, so the link is in the description below for that. And if you sign up, you get a nice sign up bonus and discounts on trading fees. So hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Keep safe out there. This is Kryptolytix signing out. Have a good one.